What I needed was not a new weapon, but a new animal.
A new animal?
Exactly so.
You found one?
Yes. Here on my island, I hunt the most dangerous game.
Most dangerous game?
Most dangerous game? What could it be?
The game I am hunting is all of you.
We are going to hunt you cricket.
What happens if I get caught?
Ooh, don't get caught. Don't get caught. Well, there he goes.
Hunt man? You raving maniac.
Well, conventional wisdom says good fleeing will always beat good chasing. But the stats say put your money on the guy with the gun.
And the hunt begins.
Indeed. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Most Dangerous Podcast, a podcast about the most dangerous game. I am Travis Fishburne.
Hi, I'm Alex Brunel.
And I'm the most dangerous Dustin Meadows.
And
yeah,
this is a special series we are doing, covering different incarnations of the most dangerous game.
Right. The short story written in 1924 by, I don't have the author's name in front of me.
Richard Connell.
Thank you. One of the most anthologized short stories of all time, which I guess that just means most reprinted short stories of all time. Recently fell into the public domain. Or no, that's been in the public domain for a while? No, recently public
since
domain.
2020.
Yeah. Although, I mean, there's been so many, like, then theoretically unlicensed adaptations, but whatever. And I've been interested in this topic for a long time. I think the first time that I was introduced to the concept of the story of Most Dangerous Game was when I saw The Pest when I was probably like 11 or 12 years old. And then when I found out that there were iterations of that were scary, that became very interesting to me. And so for a long time, I've really wanted to watch all the various film adaptations of Most Dangerous Game because it's such a versatile thing. There are adaptations there are comedies, there's exploitation. I found one, like I was telling you guys, there's Confessions of a Psycho Cat, which is a late 60s, like, softcore nudie film that's an adaptation of Most Dangerous Game. So I've always wanted to explore all these different adaptations, and I'm happy to have that forum with you guys to do that now.
There are several television episodes throughout history that pay homage to it.
Which I think at some point during the show we'll get to like an episode that we cover episodes of TV shows or something on. I think that would be fun. But so surprisingly, I had never read the short story before. Dustin, you mentioned this is your favorite short story of all time, or one of?
Yeah, this is my favorite short story of all time. I remember reading it as a kid several times, and just from a very early age, I've been fascinated by the man hunts man for sport trope in pretty much anything. So I am very pro doing this podcast, and I'm really excited that we're doing this.
Nice.
No, I'd never read the story either.
Okay, very cool. So you read. So this week you read I read it while I was on like downtime at work this week, which was great. Because it's very brief. It's like a 20-page short story or less, maybe. I don't know. Very.
No, when it ends, I'm like, it's over.
Right.
Okay.
I thought the story was really compelling. I was very enthralled, and like it didn't. I mean, it did, I guess, kind of read to me like it was written almost 100 years ago.
Yeah. No, it's got similar vibes to like Arthur Conan Doyle stuff.
Yeah. Like it sounded like it was written in a British accent. Which I enjoyed a great deal, but like it was very very vivid in a lot of ways. I loved imagining the surroundings, and there's so much that's packed into that amount of space. Like every sentence is an idea. It's like really dense and really well put together. I loved it.
And something that the film does, which this never happens with literary adaptations, the film like expands upon like it and the cast.
Yes.
Where the book is really just two characters.
Yes.
And there are way more characters in the movie.
Yeah, there's like in the short story, like the idea of sexual tension between and anything in the story doesn't exist. There is no like aspect of that at all. So of course in the movie we have Fay Wray as a love interest because we must. It is the late 30s in Hollywood, and this is what movies are. Is there's a man and a woman that wind up together.
Yeah, I think a lot of that too is those extra characters exist in the movie because we don't have the prose and the internal monologue that Rainford has in the book. It's like I literally just finished watching before we recorded. I just read the short story this afternoon too. It took me like 20 minutes because, like I said, it's really short. But Fay Wray, especially once the hunt starts, seems like she's literally there for him to explain what he is doing every time he builds a trap.
Yes. That is exactly something I noticed too, that she is there merely as a receptacle for him to say the things that he's doing to, as a way to avoid a voiceover or just him talking to himself.
Yeah, which I'm just saying, Predator didn't need that. So
but that's part of what makes the short story so fertile for adaptation, right? It is really just the bare bones of the concept. The one hunter, his assistant, or his minions, the assistant and the hounds, whatever, and the hunted. And that's all you actually really need to make the story go. And so anything on top of that is just the flavor for whatever that kind of adaptation is. And we'll get to it, and there's something like Surviving the Game where there are many hunters engaging in this thing.
Yeah, it's because you can do it where it's one hunter and a lot of people being hunted, or vice versa.
Right.
Or you could do it where aliens came from outer space and kidnapped people and took them to their game preserve planet to hunt them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's actually
and Adrian Brody was shredded.
Yes. And Lawrence Fishburne was insane wackadoodle.
Yes.
Mahershala Ali.
Oh man, I can't wait to cover that. That movie's so good. I own that movie.
That whole cast. Boy, I think fewer people than me were disappointed that The Predator wasn't a direct follow-up.
Yeah.
To Predators.
I wanted Predators too, for sure.
Same.
But what else about the short story? It took these nice little breaks. I don't know. I guess that I don't have that much more to say about the short story.
It's got a different. I was caught off guard by. I think the ending is a little different than in the film.
Sure.
Because when it ends, I actually had to look it up and be like, what's the implication here? Oh, okay. Because it's implied, he survives. They face off, and then he kills him and takes over the estate,
right,
so to say.
Yeah, it ends very abruptly. It's like Ranger goes to challenge Zaroff, and then the next sentence, he slept the best he'd ever slept that night, or something similar.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't it something that Zaroff said that like one of them would be sleeping in the bed and the other one would like satiate the hounds?
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah, like it completely makes sense in context. It is just very abrupt.
Right.
So
but I liked the aspect of the ending that seemed to me to be actually the same ending ultimately, where Zaroff is fed to his hounds. Just that Rainsford doesn't get away on a boat with Fay Wray. He kind of maybe becomes Zaroff at the end of the short story.
Yeah, the movie, the ending plays out a lot more cinematically, which I totally understand. Like that, the book ending or the short story ending is great because it's a short story. You're using your imagination anyway. But if you adapted that directly for the end of the movie, it was just like, what an anticlimax this was.
Yeah, no, totally. And there's a few instances of that, because like I'm watching this and I don't have a great head for the history of like the golden age of Hollywood, or the, you know, the various trends within that period of filmmaking. That I don't have a lot of that knowledge. So I was having a hard time kind of figuring out if this was a lower budgeted movie, a higher budgeted movie, like what kind of quality should I be looking for in here? And I guess this was supposed to be more of a bigger bombastic movie, because there's many instances in the adaptation where the movie goes way bigger than the story goes. And I think one of the most, the biggest examples of that is at the very beginning in the whole setup on the ship. In the story, it's simply two dudes talking on the deck of a ship at night. The boat is rocking back and forth. One of the dudes falls over after the other one goes to bed. That'd be two dudes on a soundstage and two lights, and then him falling into a pool, and then he swims to the island. But instead we have this like awesome whole like miniature boat sinking sequence where the boat explodes and goes under very fast.
Yeah, we got a shark attack.
There's a shark attack
on top of that, which not in the story at all. Like, and then somebody got really scary underwater footage of a shark.
Yeah.
On top of that.
Yeah, early 30s on shark footage underwater. Yeah.
And the other thing, too, is like this is interesting because you can especially see it with Fay Wray, where like this is what, 4 or 5 years after the first talkie, maybe?
Yeah, it was 1927 was the jazz singer, right?
Yeah, so this is still very much a transition that's kind of in its infancy, and you can tell that because like Fay Wray especially plays big, like she's doing silent or a stage production.
Yeah.
And it definitely comes across, whereas Joel McCrea is a little more restrained in his, and I don't want to say it's Leslie Banks that plays Zaroff, yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to say he's restrained.
He is not,
because he's not. He is chewing scenery.
That is as unhinged as it gets in 1932 in the United States, I think.
I think he's more connected to the movie, the kind of movie they're making, than Fay Wray is at parts.
I completely agree. And even Joel McCrea. Like, I think that the two leads did, you know, either didn't know how to or just didn't play into the movie that it is very well. I found Joel McCrea very wooden and a bit stilted. He had a really wimpy line reading at the end that I made a note of. When he said, and this is the line of the movie, those animals I cornered, now I know how they felt. And it was just like this flat, like lifeless delivery where like that you're saying the movie right now. You're saying your character's arc. And it just like farted out of his mouth and onto the floor, and then we moved on.
What do you think I am?
Well, and on top of that too, like in the story, we very much get the idea that Zaroff and Rainsford are supposed to be two sides of the same coin,
right?
And I don't feel like we really get that from McCrea's performance in
I
this.
agree. Yes.
Like he kind of tiptoes around stuff. Like he doesn't sound as excited about, you know, what the hunt means to him.
Right.
And like you said, like there are just some kind of wooden line readings that just don't really seem like he had any conviction when he was delivering them. Whereas Zaroff means literally everything he says to 11.
Love Leslie Banks' performance in this movie.
He's great. Well, and on top of that too, like having just read the short story right before I watched the movie today, the probably 90% of his dialogue is verbatim from the short story.
Yeah. And there's even a line in here from the short story where he refers to Cossacks as all being a bit savage, which is a direct lift from the story. And I'm very curious to see if there's literally any other iteration of this story on film that uses that bit, because that's a really specific and and kind of bizarre thing, and I'm surprised it even wound up in this, but maybe I shouldn't be that surprised. I don't know. But yeah, I'll just be interested to track that thing and like the specificity of Zaroff's dialogue being lifted throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to totally trash Joel McRae, because I do have to make this disclaimer. I was talking to my mom about this earlier today. My mom is a big fan of Golden Age of Hollywood, and she told me that I couldn't trash Joel McRae on the podcast because he was too beautiful. So I am not trashing Joel McRae. I believe he was.
What do you think I am?
He is a fine performer and obviously a very beautiful man. And since this was a pre-code movie, he got to show off his chest toward the end of the film. So that was a nice bonus for whoever was interested in that.
Man.
So yes, not trashing Joel McRae, a beautiful man, just I think less in the movie than everyone else.
You know who would have been great here? Brendan Fraser.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, that would be great. I would have loved for there to have been the late 90s, like,
Steven
period.
Sommers, The Most Dangerous Game.
Yeah, like the period action version of this, like that late 90s period action thing that The Mummy was the forefront of, but like of an adaptation of the short story straight up, and not like, you know, an iteration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is what Rick O'Connell was doing before he ended up in Egypt.
Yes, exactly. That would be great. I would love that movie.
Let's see. I got Hunted for Sport. I guess I'll go fight the French Foreign Legion now, or fight for them. I can't remember which it was, but the French Foreign Legion was there, and he was with or against them.
Yep. There's some stuff I was looking at the background about this movie, which I had no idea about. There's a bunch of interesting stuff about the background of this movie, which it is basically that it is the sibling of King Kong in terms of film production. It is like the twin of the fraternal twin of King Kong.
Yeah, I did not do reading, but just the names attached to it. When it comes up, I'm like, oh, Max Steiner, that guy did the music for King Kong.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, the director is also the director of King Kong, and we got Fay Wray, and
yes,
so many different things.
They even use some of the same sets.
Yeah,
as well.
So what it was an RKO radio movie. Marion C. Cooper and Ernest Schoedsack, who were directors of King Kong, Schoedsack was a co-director on this film, and Cooper was a producer on this film. Both were produced by David O. Selznick. James Creelman wrote both movies. And this movie was shot at night on the jungle sets that King Kong was shooting on during the day. So Travis, you sent over an image that I had erroneously not prepared. Oh, but here we go now. Here we go.
Oh,
so there's like the same shot in King Kong as there is in this film.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I know that log.
Dustin, did you get this, or I'm gonna put it in the chat window in a sec here.
No, I don't think I got any of the visual aids.
I'll drop it in this because this is pretty fun. So that was going on. So this movie is like, and because Kong had more effects heavy work going on, it took longer in post-production and took some months to come out. So as a consequence, this movie came out in 1932. Kong came out in 1933. But, the same people that did this would also like continue to go on to make Son of Kong and Mighty Joe Young. Like they kept doing these movies. And that is just a wild, wild thing to me. I did not know King Kong had a cousin movie, and it was the first adaptation of The Most Dangerous Game.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
What else here? Oh, yes. The other thing I learned was there was an earlier cut of the movie that was 78 minutes long, and the vast majority of that took place in the trophy room and featured much more graphic stuff. There were more heads in jars. There was also an emaciated sailor stuffed and mounted next to a tree where he was impaled by Zaroff's arrow, and another full body figure stuffed with the bodies of two of the hunting dogs mounted in a death grip. And this was accompanied by Zaroff describing all of these hunts in great detail. Attendees of a preview screening reportedly left the theater in disgust after the sequence. So like 12 minutes of the movie got lifted out, or 14 minutes, like a chunk of a 62-minute, what is now a 62-minute movie, just like went away. And it is a shame. Like I've looked, I haven't seen evidence of any of that footage being restored or ever released or found or anything, which seems like a big shame. Because that would probably be very cool to see. Where's Peter Jackson remaking the deleted scenes of Most Dangerous Game, guys?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think he's such a fan of King Kong and restoring things. You know, it'd be like, oh, let's go back and do this too.
Right. This would be a fun like way to make Weta work on something for 3 years that a very small part of the pie of human beings are interested in. Let's do that. I love Peter Jackson so much. I don't love The Lovely Bones, and I think the Hobbit movies were a mistake. But in a general way, I love Peter Jackson very much.
Oh, I just recently found out that the Frighteners was originally supposed to be a Tales from the Crypt movie.
Yeah.
Something I didn't know.
That makes sense.
Everyone should. Sorry, go ahead, Dustin.
I was gonna say, and then Bordello of Blood blew it.
Mm-hmm.
Bordello of Blood is super good though. Demon Knight, man.
Yeah, but then we got Demon Knight, directed by Ernest Dickerson, which he made one of these adaptations.
Surviving the Game.
Yes. God, I just watched. I think he was. Is he also a DP? Ernest Dickerson?
He was for Spike Lee.
Yeah.
He was DP.
I just showed my fiance Do the Right Thing the other day for the first time, and I saw his name pop up, and I was like, "Oh, Demon Knight, Ernest Dickerson, cool." Yeah,
did he do Bones too?
Yes.
Okay. I think he did a couple good episodes of Masters of Horror also.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
no, the Snoop Dogg horror film, not the David Boreanaz's medical police show. I'm not sure what that was.
Gotcha. I initially thought you meant the Snoop Dogg thing, and I was like, wait, is he talking about the David Aurora Borealis show? That makes no sense.
Oh man, I'm just glad, I don't know if Angel is still on TV, so I'm just glad that he was in a show that is just going to like be on TNT as long as TNT ever exists, and will just pay for his life. I'm happy for him. Looking through more of my notes, I liked very much in this adaptation that all of Rainsford's traps are direct lifts from the story. Like all of the best traps from the story get depicted in the film. Ivan dies in a very similar way, where he's impaled on a sharpened stick as the hounds are leading him through the jungle. But in contrast to the short story, Zaroff doesn't seem to care about that at all. He literally runs right past him.
Yeah, and the story is like, oh no, where am I going to get another gigantic, deaf, dumb manservant?
Right, he at least had that thought in the short story, and this is just like, no matter. Onward.
Who also was formerly the torturer for Alexander III.
Right, that was one of the words I had to look up in the short story. I can't remember what the word was, but it was
the
like
naughtier, something like that. Benatier for the Great White Tsar.
Yes. And then I learned what the nyat was, and that is awful. It was a horrible whip. It was a horrible whipping that generally resulted in death, as I understand it. So yeah, this was I thought a real fun place to start with all this. I don't know. I'm really excited to gear up for the rest of the show. I don't think we're done talking about this today, but I don't know what more I have to say about this movie, honestly.
Like all the traps, it reminds me of like all the Ewok traps in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
All right. I want a Star Wars spinoff. Doesn't have to be a whole show, just an episode where the Ewoks hunt people for sport.
Well, I don't understand why there isn't. No, there is a Star Wars Most Dangerous Game. No, isn't there two episodes of Clone Wars that's Most Dangerous Game with Jedi?
Yeah, it's with Chewbacca and some Trandoshans.
Oh, right. So
but yeah, one where it's like literally that's what the third Ewok movie could have been. Was people get like crash land on the moon of Endor, and this is what happens.
The most dangerous yub nub.
There was toward the end of the film, when there's the showdown by the waterfall, Rainsford shoots one of his dogs as it's attacking, or no, Zaroff shoots one of his own dogs as it's attacking Rainsford. In one of the clearest depictions of shooting a dog in a movie I've ever seen. I was even like taken aback by like a dog seemingly actually it didn't seem like he was actually shot, but like, the dogs didn't seem happy on this movie.
No, and that's always an issue when you're watching old Hollywood stuff and animals, and you're like,
right.
What were the moral implications of all this?
I mean, like, there was the shot of the dogs kind of climbing up that channel up the cliff, and the last time it cut back to that shot, the dog like kind of gets up there and like tries to use its neck to finish the job, but then just gives up and slides down and onto the head of the dog underneath him.
Yeah. The horn that Zaroff uses to call the dogs. It's when he uses it, I'm like, oh, we heard that at the beginning. Like that's during the opening,
we did, didn't
title
we?
Sequence.
And that's kind of the thing that kind of takes the place of Rainsford hearing those 3 pistol shots off in the night in the short story, is that horn.
Yeah.
That's interesting. One thing I found funny about the movie is there were 2 opportunities where like stealth would have been the correct thing, and Rainsford for either party, and Rainsford chooses like no. The first instance is when when Rainsford and Eve go to the trophy room by themselves. And then they hear Zaroff coming and they hide, and then Zaroff comes back in with Martin's corpse on a stretcher, and immediately they jump out from their hiding place where they were not suspected to be, and we're like, what are you doing in here, sir? Who is the man on the stretcher? Where is Martin?
Yeah, that was maybe like as soon as they came charge out, I was like, oh boy, I forgot they went real dumb in this moment for no reason.
Wow.
And then even on top of that, at the very end, when Rainsford has managed to make Zaroff think that he's dead, and he sneaks back in the front door that should make all the noise in the world but doesn't. Rainsford then chooses to close the door loudly to announce his presence to Zaroff, who he could have snuck up on and just dispatched, but no. That's not the way it went.
Yeah, because we see him later when one of the henchmen dudes charges in, he basically puts him in a torture rack and then breaks his neck.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Hey, you know how much easier that is to do when the person has their back to you and is playing a piano? Like, I'm just saying, I don't presume to know everything about pianos and the people who play them, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that no one has ever failed to kill a person who was playing the piano because the person playing the piano put up too much of a fight.
That is a good point.
There's a movie about John Cusack. He's going to shoot Elijah Wood playing the piano if he gets the wrong key. It's like Speed, but with a piano.
What?
Yeah.
That's
if he gets the wrong key, yeah.
Are you? Is that not the film? Is that not the Postman movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt where he's a bike messenger?
No, this is different.
What is this movie you're talking about?
I've forgotten the name of it already.
Oh my god! Someone greenlit that? That's amazing. I need to know this.
Grand Piano. Yeah.
It's called Grand Piano.
Yep. Grand Piano is an English language Spanish thriller film starring Elijah Wood and John Cusack. The film is about a once promising pianist returning for a comeback performance only to be the target of a sniper who will kill him if he plays the wrong note.
That is look who wrote it. Look who wrote it.
Richard Connell?
No.
No.
I want want you to say it, Travis.
Damien Chazelle, Academy Award winner Damien Chazelle wrote this.
Oh boy.
From the man who brought you Ryan Gosling's Fingers on a Piano comes the movie about a man who will be assassinated if he plays the wrong note on the piano.
Okay, but is John Cusack's Sniper also a pianist, or is he like just super familiar with the piece? How would he know?
Is
Also, if it's Damien Chazelle, Elijah Wood's most likely a jazz pianist. And I don't know if people are familiar with jazz, but they don't usually play along to sheet music. It's entirely about the notes they don't play. Elijah Wood's being set up to fail from the jump.
Oh man, I'm gonna need to watch this movie. It's also apparently good. I'm seeing it's like decently rated.
But this also just seems like Phone Booth, but with a piano.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that there's a big, a large aspect of the movie is about the sniper's motivation, but I am very curious about the sniper's motivation. What could possibly be that important about the piano playing that drives you to kill, or someone to hire you to do so?
It's interesting with the Damien Chazelle aspect of it. And now I'm like, okay, I could see the J.K. Simmons character in Whiplash doing this.
So disgruntled music teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
So just like, yeah, J.K. Simmons, this is in the theory of total media interconnectivity, where this movie is a prequel to that movie. A different actor, a different, alternate dimension version of that character is perhaps the John Cusack in this film.
It just ends with J.K. Simmons walking up to a dying Elijah Wood, flicking a bullet at him and saying, "You were rushing," and then walking away.
Oh, dudes. Okay, so the guy, this is a total divergence off The Most Dangerous Game, but this is really interesting to me. The guy who directed this movie, Grand Piano, is this filmmaker named Eugenio Mira, and I actually have seen one of his films that is like desperately unavailable. Even through piracy, it's like hard to come by, called The Birthday from 2004, starring Corey Feldman.
Wow.
About Norman, a young man very much in love with his girlfriend, attends her father's birthday party held in a hotel where a sect happens to be preparing for the birth of the god it worships. And it's this kind of like lavish looking, very regal looking horror comedy starring Corey Feldman, where he's trying very hard in 2004. It's really kind of compelling and good, and I saw it years ago, and now I actually am very interested in watching Grand Piano.
Yeah, it's got Alex Winter in it as well.
No way.
Oh,
Yeah.
What? But I missed it if you said it already. Did you say what year this movie was?
Grand Piano
2013.
2013.
Oh God, so pre-Whiplash even.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, yeah, I'm. It's got my attention now.
I wonder if that's streaming anywhere.
Anyway, that has nothing to do with the most dangerous
the most
game.
dangerous game, everyone. Oh yeah, it's on
Most
Prime.
dangerous game?
You mean Tigers?
Most dangerous game? What could it be?
I did think that line in this movie was really funny, where he just goes, "Most dangerous game? You mean Tigers?"
Yes.
Like he obviously already knew the answer. It's like, you're just talking about tigers, right? And also in that scene, I thought Leslie Banks. I mean, I think it's great in the short story how Zaroff kind of geeks out about Rainsford, because Rainsford is like this celebrity hunter who's written books about hunting, which I assume was an actual thing, or it probably is still an actual thing. But
They're mostly magazines now.
right.
Yeah, not unlike the German pilot in The Three Amigos, who was in love with Martin Short's character
Yes.
and his exploits.
But like Leslie Banks is so good in this scene. Like the performance is so creepy and fanboy-y. There's like a twinge of like what we might call now like neckbeard energy, you know? Yeah. And it's like so encapsulated in like this just 3 minutes or like 2 minutes of talking that Leslie Banks does at the top of like, getting into the meat of it.
For sure. And that's something that, you know, we're not supposed to be. Oh, that was something. And the Joel McCrea performance, you don't really get. Like,
No.
he is the person that, you know, Zaroff would look up to.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't play that at all, but he does. There is a. I'm sorry. Please finish your thought because I have mine written down.
I was going to say, I would also maybe have cast him a little older as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. He does seem very young to be this world-accomplished, world-renowned hunter. You know, in addition, not even just. Let me find the. Oh, right. So, you know, it's 1932. Like, of course, this is going to be the way. But Eve, the woman, tries to warn Bob Rainsford, the man, that there's something dangerous going on here and that he should be careful. But of course, he's the man who knows better, so he just shrugs that off entirely because this man just said a bunch of very nice things about me. Like, why wouldn't I trust this man? You know, like he practically just got a BJ from this guy whose island he crash landed on, and he's just like,
sucker.
Like, no, you silly woman. This man is clearly a distinguished gentleman. He knows my work. I thought that was funny.
Cocksucker.
So yeah, that was funny. I mean, there's many instances of, you know, talking down as a person because she's about to be right. It happens more than once in the movie because it's 1932. What do we expect?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a ton of movies from this time, which is a little weird, I guess. I've seen more silent movies than I have like early golden age of Hollywood talkies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the majority of the films I've seen from like this era are from the later part of the 30s and throughout the 40s. I find that when I watch, you know, what I would consider a classic movie, the 40s are like the decade I'm drawn to the most.
Yeah, I think almost everything pre-40s for me, the majority of it is the Universal Monsters stuff. And then a handful of like stuff like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Metropolis and a few things like that.
Sure, yeah.
Well, you bring up the Universal Monster stuff, and that's what a lot of like Zaroff's palace feels like. It feels like, you know, Frankenstein and stuff like that, the castle there.
And that's why I would so desperately love to see more footage of the trophy room, because like that was my main kind of issue. Like if I had an issue with the movie, like, why didn't you do this? I was like, why didn't I see more of the horror that is this person's life? Because the book is very, I mean, the story is very graphic in that regard, and in a great, very effective way. And you know, we see that. I'm in my head, I'm just thinking ahead to the heads on the walls scene in The Pest, because that's like so burned into my brain. But you know, I wanted more of that kind of thing in this. But the heads that we got, like, they look so gross. I love that the effect, that kind of effects from this era always has a very specific look, and it's upsetting because it looks really rotten.
Yes,
it looks really pulpy, and it looks like it's about to fall apart.
Yeah, he did not do the proper taxidermy.
Right.
Oh no, it's because to get in character, Leslie Banks really went out and hunted people.
He really learned how to use that bow and arrow.
Yeah. Brando's a chump. You call Leslie Banks, you want real method.
That was an invention of the movie too, was his flourish with the weapon, and the weapon being part of his like you know, his quest for the better hunt, and you know, this kind of thing. That was an interesting flourish. I like too, the writing.
I also I forgot just how clearly marked for death the brother was, because I remembered him being obnoxious, but not as obnoxious as he was on this rewatch. It was like, oh man, I don't even understand how Fay Ray is upset that this guy is dead, and that's her brother.
I thought he was hysterical.
He was very funny,
no,
but
yeah,
he
totally, but
was he was
annoying.
obnoxious as hell.
Yeah, I mean, like he's obviously the guy that you are hoping will get killed first because you just want him to be off screen.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Armstrong, who would go on to, this was one of 5 collaborations between him and the whole Kong crew, because he was also in Kong and Son of Kong and Mighty Joe Young and 2 other movies that those guys all made, which is kind of insane. Huge career, Robert Armstrong. But I was reading that character was written that way because obviously that character is not in the short story. And that was kind of a big issue, and he's supposed to be annoying. Prohibition was still in effect at the time that this movie came out. But the law was kind of generally ignored. And I'm just kind of reading off of this page here, but Marion C. Cooper was strongly critical of alcohol use and the glamorization of drunkenness in movies. So there's a similar scene in Mighty Joe Young where inebriated nightclub patrons precipitate the creature's escape and rampage, and in Son of Kong, where drunkenness proves disastrous for the heroine's father. Yeah, so like that was Cooper's like, yeah, look, this is what happens when you imbibe the alcohol. When you get drunk, you'll wind up as a head on a crazy person's wall on some island because your private boat crashed.
Yeah, he Zaroff says like, I give them proper like exercise and food so that they're in peak physical condition. And then he says, except for this guy is like shooting fish in a barrel.
Right. This guy, I just kind of wanted to die. And no one was that upset. Yeah. This is a fun movie. Oh God.
I also like this movie could very easily have been cut in half.
Oh, totally.
Like I was genuinely like, even rewatching it, I was kind of surprised. Like I feel like that's probably also a large part of why they added in the Trowbridge characters. Because I mean, nobody's saying is like, hey, make a 32-minute Hollywood movie back in those days.
Right.
So yeah, definitely it seemed like came out of more of a necessity to kind of pad the story out a bit. Although I don't think any of that necessarily does a disservice to the movie for the most part.
No. I mean, yeah, what would this be? It would be an episode of a serial that only had 1 episode if it was anything shorter than an hour, I think. I kind of love these. I kind of love the 1930s movies that are just like an hour long. These just like a straight shot of a movie stuff. Freaks is that way too. Which is one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite 1930s movies for sure. Is Freaks.
Oh yeah. Sarah says that Leslie Banks also looked like Jason Momoa in this. I think.
Oh, he kind of did a little.
I think she means Noble Johnson, who played Ivan.
Okay. Yes, I see
that.
Yes,
Sarah. But
yeah, that I could see more as like maybe in Zaroff's, maybe in the eyeline, but yeah, no, God, and how great is Ivan in this? Like,
all he has to do is imposing and creepy.
Stand there is like, hey, can you scowl? And then we'll cut to you and we'll put a piano sting under it in post.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the screen depiction of Ivan because he was, except for he was wearing white in the film, and in my head he was wearing dark colors in the short story, but he looked exactly like I pictured him in the short story, like a brick wall of a Russian man. Like,
so, yeah, in the short story, for whatever reason, I pictured him dressed up more like Lurch from the Addams Family, like in a suit, a tuxedo. As opposed to just looking like a Cossack peasant, which I mean he is.
Sure.
But that was where my head went. But also, God, the moment when Zaroff tells him in Russian to smile, and then he does, and then immediately drops back to his scowl is so funny. Like, that's just such a great sight gag.
It is really funny. When this movie tries to be funny, and it succeeds. It's like all the little, there's a few little jokes, but they all work really well. Yeah, I like this movie. I found it very easy to get into and not because well, we're all millennials. Like it's can be hard to concentrate on a movie from the 1930s sometimes.
Yeah.
But I didn't find this to be one of them, so that was nice.
Yeah, and it's so brief. The fact that it is only a little over an hour. It almost felt like it could have just been like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah. Here's another. So there's another adaptation of the short story that was a radio adaptation, and I'm gonna see if I can find this because I would love to listen to this. I don't know if we need to discuss it, but like I think we're gonna listen to it. A CBS radio program called Suspense, and an episode it was adapted twice for that show. The first time starred Orson Welles as Zaroff.
Yep.
When you said radio program from like the third, I'm like, is it like Orson Welles style? And literally,
Orson Welles as Zaroff, and I really want to hear that. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. I never knew that existed. I forgot there was an episode of Gilligan's Island that was this too. I think I saw that episode when I was a kid, but
so when the Harlem Globetrotters show up?
Yes, the Harlem Globetrotters are the hunters, and the crew of the SS Minnow is the prey. That's how they get their basketball powers, is the murder. Yes. What else? I don't know. I don't know if I have anything more to say about this particular movie or the short story itself. Although maybe we should discuss unless you guys have more to chime in specifically with that stuff, we can discuss what the rest of the season might hold for us.
Sure. One more quick thing on this. It's just like, I don't know when the next time we're going to talk about Fay Wray.
Oh, sure. Let's talk about Fay Wray, who is definitely in this movie.
It's weird when I think about like certain like legends and like long time ago legends of Hollywood sharing space at the same time as us, and like how far back certain things go. And it's like, well, it wasn't that long ago, because Fay Wray actually visited the set of Jurassic Park.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, I don't think.
Yeah. She visited the set of Jurassic Park to like see how things are going, and to be there to kind of support Ariana Richards. Like I remember,
interesting.
Yeah, there was some footage from like some documentaries when they were making the movie of her visiting and talking to like young Ariana, and Spielberg's like this woman's like the queen of screaming at giant monsters. You should take notes from her.
That they can't always see.
Yeah.
That's great. Something I found out a few weeks ago, my fiance and I and a friend, we went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Oh yeah.
Where Fay Wray is buried. And our guide was like, she was super great. She was wonderful. Anyone listening, if you're out here, highly recommend checking it out. It's a cool, very educational, very fun tour. But Fay Wray's buried there. Somebody had put a stuffed gorilla by her headstone, which I thought was very sweet. And apparently, according to our tour guide, Peter Jackson wanted Fay Wray to be in his remake of King Kong, and he wanted her to do the "Was Beauty Killed the Beast" line, but she was 90 plus years old and basically just in no condition to travel, so she was not able to do that. But I think essentially she wanted to, but she just physically, it was not possible.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool that she was willing to do it. And that, I mean, Peter Jackson clearly is the kind of guy who's like, would do something like that. And I just thought it was a really cool little story and that I had never heard before.
Yeah, it's nice. And she's as great as she ever was really in the movie. She's, she was better in King Kong, but there's nothing wrong with her in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, she's got like she's the main emotional thrust of King Kong. So
right. Right.
Yeah. I don't think she's written particularly well in this movie either.
No. Her existence is very perfunctory in this movie.
Yeah. Like she's she's just a step above Barbara in the original Night of the Living Dead as far as actually serving any function whatsoever. She's basically there to have things explained to her by Joel McCrea, and then to scream occasionally, and then to just be dismissed by Zakharov because I don't hunt the female of the species or whatever.
Right.
So,
but you can go with him anyway. Like, what?
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong in the movie, but was the offer not like, if you win, you can come back and get her and you can both leave, or she can go with you and maybe suffer the same fate? And then she decided to go with him? That was the offer, right?
I think what it was she initially wanted to go with him. Joel McCrea said, no, you'll be in danger. He said, I would never hunt the female of the species, the weaker sex, blah, blah, blah. Then he offers the freedom, but I think it was Joel McCrea didn't trust him, so she went anyway.
Okay.
But yeah. Oh, also the other thing, we get an alligator in this.
Yeah,
we
get an alligator.
We don't get an alligator killing someone.
It's true.
No.
We just get an alligator's presence.
Someone or one of the dogs or anything.
Like that. You know what swamp I'm never going to run through ever? One that I see a goddamn alligator in. Because if you see one alligator, there's probably about 5 or 6 alligators you aren't seeing.
Probably true.
Yeah.
I turn around and take my chances with the dogs.
Yeah, they switched out the quicksand for an alligator, basically.
Yeah. I've been bitten by a dog. I could take a dog if it came down to it. I could probably take a couple dogs if it came down to it.
I don't know if you could take like 7 of those hounds.
Not 7 of them. Not 7 of them. They would definitely kill me, but I'd punch a couple of them.
I'd punch a couple of them. Yeah, you would. You would for sure.
I wouldn't swing on an alligator. I ain't trying to lose an arm.
You're not going to run across a bunch of alligators' backs like in Live and Let Die.
If they had been set up in such a way that I could have, I might have. That actually probably would have been a pretty great weapon. I'm a thick boy. I might have broken some alligator spines and been fine.
Possible. Can alligators survive with a broken spine, I wonder? Probably not.
It'd be difficult because
difficult.
Well, their main killing maneuver is a death roll, which I imagine is going to require a functional spinal cord.
You've never seen like an alligator with like the little wheels on the back legs like they have for dogs?
I've never seen a rehabbed gator. No, I imagine there's got to be like some crazy ass in Florida that runs an alligator rescue where there's like a tripod alligator or something that he's like rehabbed back to health, and he's got a 3D printed leg for his stub and stuff.
Like, for the most part, I love and respect nature. But if you're the type of person out here rehabilitating just cold-blooded apex predators, fucking knock it off. Knock it off. Maybe don't.
I agree.
What, we ain't got it bad enough? You're out here fixing up scaly skin murder machines?
Oh, God. Yeah. Touché.
Just out here being Betty White in Lake Placid, making things worse.
Oh yeah,
yeah. One of the finest screen characters of all time, Betty White in Lake Placid.
That entire movie, unsung gem. That movie. Some of Oliver Platt's finest work, of which he has a lot of.
Yeah.
Also, one of Brendan Gleeson's greatest performances. Again, of which he has many. That's just a solid movie.
Who's the woman lead in that movie?
Bridget Fonda.
That's right.
Because I think that was 1 or 2 movies before she kind of retired.
Okay, right.
Because I think it was before Kiss of the Dragon with Jet Li, which was like, I think the next to last movie that she did before she just retired from acting pretty much altogether.
Right.
But she's great in it.
Yeah. She's also in Monkey Bone.
Oh, Monkey Bone's Bridget Fonda.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I got to watch so many movies this week, but now I just want to watch Lake Placid again.
And Monkey Bone.
I've actually never seen Monkey Bone, but that's been on my list for a long time.
Monkey Bone's one of those movies that I've always really liked because it does visual stuff that no other movie does. Like there's no other movie. There's parts of Monkey Bone that no other movie looks like it, and it's amazing. And Henry Selick directed it, but ultimately it's like uneven and weird and, you know, not like amazing, but worth watching. The cast is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I was on board already off of Brendan Fraser alone. I don't know if I've mentioned on our podcast before, but I'm a big Brendan Fraser stan.
Really? That wasn't even brought up in this episode.
We hadn't heard about it recently.
I'm just happy for him, you guys. Good for Brendan Fraser.
So how many weeks do we have of this podcast potentially, theoretically, before Kenobi kicks in?
We've got a few.
Is that 6 weeks? Is that 10 weeks? I don't know.
Kenobi's what, May 25th?
May 25th. Yeah. And I just want to say, I wanted to say this on our Star Wars podcast, but I'm just going to say it here because why not? I am so happy that they're putting it out on May 25th, which will be the 45th anniversary of Star Wars A New Hope being released in theaters, and not 2 weeks earlier on May the 4th, or 3 weeks earlier on May the 4th, for that stupid day, which is also a Wednesday. It's also their release. You know, it's all, they could very easily do like the May the 4th be with you, Kenobi is here, but they're doing the 45th anniversary of the movie instead, and I like that very much.
Yeah, I think there's dual reasons for that. One is the Star Wars anniversary. The other is Moon Knight is still going to be going on at that time.
I forgot about Moon Knight.
I did some quick math, and assuming I'm right, we're looking at about 14 weeks.
Okay,
between this dropping and the week that Kenobi comes out.
That's great. That's a great many iterations of this to discuss. That is an exciting prospect.
Yeah.
So I mean, movies that I definitely want to cover in this, obviously The Pest, obviously Surviving the Game, and I've long been very interested in watching the 1982 Australian sci-fi film Turkey Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So those would kind of be the three that I'm most interested in getting to earlier on in our series, you know, within the first 6 weeks, let's say. I would love your guys' input on what other titles you would love to be in that first chunk of episodes also.
I definitely second Surviving the Game. That's great. For me, Hard Target and Predators is up there as well for movies. As far as ones that I think definitely, especially in terms of quality, I think rank a little higher because those are both just phenomenal movies on their own. And they're even better Most Dangerous Game adaptations.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I would be interested in watching a Game of Death, which is the next iteration.
Yeah, the 1945, also by RKO, also an RKO Radio Pictures film.
This is a different Game of Death than the Bruce Lee one, though. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I'm down for those very much.
The other ones you've all like mentioned. I'm interested in watching Hard Target. I've never seen that.
Hard Target's so good. John Woo's American debut, if I remember correctly.
Seems that is correct. And I actually didn't have that one on the list somehow.
Ooh, yeah, Hard Target, so good. Lance Henriksen is the villain.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, this is a must.
And you mentioned this before, Dustin, but The Hunt being like the most recent, big budget or mainstream version of this.
So my roommate, literally just before we started to record, he mentioned apparently there was a Quibi version.
Yes,
there is.
With Christoph Waltz and Liam Hemsworth,
which is now free to stream on Roku.
Yeah, which I didn't even know existed, but oh my god, Christoph Waltz, I presume, is Zaroff. That's pretty solid casting. Liam Hemsworth's not bad.
I watched the trailer for it today, and it's interesting because it takes place just modern day in the city. Like it's
interesting.
Yeah.
That seemed like one of the and this is speaking as a person who did work for Quibi and who literally, I sat in on a meeting at Quibi HQ while one of their execs pitched the whole top to bottom concept and execution of Quibis and Quibisodes. I got all that insider dirt. And since they don't exist anymore, I don't think anyone's going to be upset if I talk about it.
Yeah, I would say I think it's outsider dirt at this point.
It's not going to be like MoviePass where it comes back.
But one of the things that was brought up in the meeting is that there were already people that were creating content for Quibi that didn't really understand how it was really going to be formatted, both in terms of how it was shot and how it was edited. And I am very concerned that a thing because there were a couple other Quibi things that I tried to watch at the time. There was this show that starred Will Forte and somebody else that was interesting that I can't remember, but I couldn't stay interested between by the time I was interested, the episode was over, and then the same thing happened 3 times in a row. I'm like, I'm not watching this. The only things that interesting happened in the last 30 seconds. And so I'd be concerned about this narrative that adds up to about an hour and 45 minutes of movie if you watch it all together, but it has an act break every 7-ish minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't like that. I'm not crazy about that at all.
And that was the flaw of Quibi to begin with.
Yeah, I forgot that they had that weird formatting thing, because every time they would promote a new movie, there was, I don't remember who the female lead was, but there was some thriller they were marketing that had I think Dane DeHaan was also in it. And just watching it, I was like, this kind of looks like it'd be cool. It was oh, this is under 10-minute chunks. No, why just make it a TV show? What are you doing?
Right.
Get out of here.
Right.
I think the resurrection of Reno 911 is probably the best, maybe even the only good thing to come of Quibi's rise and fall.
I think that's for sure true.
Yeah, is that they get to come back and they all get to have fun and make money and do stuff, so that Lennon and Garrett don't have to write another Herbie movie.
And speaking of those Quibi, Reno Quibis, the second season that we shot that never came out because Quibi shut down on day 4 of our 12-day production, literally while we were on set shooting, Quibi announced that they were shutting down as we're on set of a Quibi show. Viacom in their eternal wisdom financed the finishing of that work, and so those episodes got re-edited into half hours, and they are premiering on the Roku channel, which is just a free to stream thing on Roku. They're premiering February 25th, and you can see the COVID bubble season of Reno, where Leland Black plays 5 characters because he was in the hotel bubble with all of us.
Oh, that's amazing.
Guest stars are limited because we were all in the bubble.
Yeah, I'm excited for that to come back. The QAnon movie was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that was a good time.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
So yeah, Reno 911 defunded
folks.
Comes back on Roku on February 25th.
Wait, is that the name of the season?
Yeah, they named it Reno 911 Defunded.
That's great. Defund Reno 911.
Because the first season we did was we shot it just before COVID happened, February 2020. Then COVID happens and social uprisings happen, and Black Lives Matter is way back in the public consciousness and defunding the police and all this stuff. And then we shot another season of Reno in October of that year in a bubble where it was no one in, no one out of this hotel for 2 weeks, except for, and we just did the Reno thing. It was great. But yeah, a lot of that was about the department getting defunded. And I was the only, Reno's the only cop show you could still make really after all of that.
Oh yeah, even Brooklyn 999 was 999. Even Brooklyn 99 was yeah, this should probably be our last season. We're running out of ways to make people not hate all the cops.
Right. And Reno's defense is these guys were never not idiots.
Oh yeah, 100%. God, and it's just great to see all of them working.
Yeah. They're so much fun.
They're all super funny. They're all stupid, ridiculously talented. Yeah, it's nice to see good things keep happening for good people.
Yes, I agree. And I think Carrie Kenny has a new show coming out. She's on a new sitcom with Chris Elliott that's going to be on some platform.
Oh my God, what a matchup!
But Chris Elliott and Carrie Kenny Silver playing a husband and wife on a sitcom. Yes, please give me this show now.
Yeah, that's solid.
Let's watch Cabin Boy. That's the most.
That's
Dangerous game.
that's if that was at all a most dangerous game adaptation, I would so love to analyze Cabin Boy.
Oh, I tried to rewatch Cabin Boy. I think a year and a half ago. I got 20 minutes into it and I had to tap out. I couldn't. Which sucks because I love Chris Elliott, and I didn't even get to him screaming "These pipes are clean," which was the one part I remembered, and the one part that I definitely remember laughing, despite being 10 and not understanding the line at the time.
Nice. So should we leave it a surprise what we're gonna do next week? Should we decide what we're gonna do next week right now?
I guess decide if people want to actually.
Let people prep for the episode. That's kind of a good idea.
Okay, yeah. Let's. Well, how do you guys feel about just doing the pest and getting this over with as the gateway?
I'm fine with that.
Thing.
I mean, my feeling is we're gonna watch all of these eventually anyway. So, for the most part, I'm not particularly married to what order we do them in.
Cool. I'm gonna see if and where the pest is available to stream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is available to rent on Amazon, Vudu, Apple TV, and via Microsoft. So, if you want, it's available. It's not free anywhere, but $2 or $3 will get you a rental.
Yeah, cool. Or maybe your local video store if you're one of the cool places lucky enough to have one of those still.
There's like 3 places you could go in LA to try to rent the pest.
Yeah. Or see if Netflix can mail it to you in the next week.
That is also probably totally an option.
Yeah, I was very surprised to find out that Netflix's disc service still exists.
Yeah. A lot of people still use it. Like, anytime people are like, I'm surprised this still exists, the response is just like, yeah, rural America. And it's just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Time to do it. How else am I going to watch George Romero's Knight Riders?
Oh, yeah. With Ed Harris.
Yeah, although, I actually went to Videotech and rented it last week, but...
Nice.
But yeah, very excited because I've never seen it.
Oh, yeah. There's a little cameo in there. That's fun.
Is it the band Cameo?
No, it's not that.
Oh, well, I'm less excited now.
So looking ahead to the pest, directed by this man named Paul Miller, his only other directing credits seem to be stand-up comedy specials. And one of the credited producers is Sid Sheinberg, who I remember as the executive at Universal who would not release Terry Gilliam's Brazil, and further the executive at Universal who did not understand Back to the Future top to bottom.
Interesting.
He wanted to retitle Back to the Future, right?
I think Spaceman from Pluto.
Yeah.
I think that line was like because Sheinberg wanted to retitle the movie that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, what a ding dong! Is the pest? Is this Leguizamo's first solo lead role?
I think that is correct. He co-wrote the script, and it is the first film, the first movie I see on the list that I'm looking at. So yeah, this was his big push. This wasn't his. He was already in my awareness. He had a kind of a variety comedy show on Fox.
Yes, House of Buggin'
in 1995. I remember this comedy block very well because I had a tape of the premiere of it, and I think it was like The New Get Smart, starring Andy Dick.
Oh, jeez.
As Maxwell Smart's like son, and like Don Adams was still in the show.
Yes, I vaguely remember that.
And House of Buggin', and I think it may have been followed by the premiere of Mad TV. I might be wrong about that.
Wow.
I think Mad TV was a little after House of Buggin'.
Okay, there's something else in that 2 hours, or maybe it was. But
was it in Living Color?
It wasn't. No, because this was 95. That was 91.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would have been after In Living Color then.
But like House of Buggin' was definitely in the wake of In Living Color for sure.
It might have been Mad TV then. I thought House of Buggin' was earlier than that.
No, this stuff was all 95. So that's why I think it may have been like that stuff, but like 9:30 and 10 p.m. for Mad TV.
Yeah, I think you might be right then, because 95 or 96 was definitely the first season of Mad TV.
Yeah, all this information is verifiable on the internet. We're just not looking it up.
And
we'll talk more about the
we can speculate.
Yeah. We get to look forward to Freddie Rodriguez and Joe Morton and Aries Spears, and we get to see Jeffrey Jones. and
Yep.
it was scored by Kevin Kiner. Travis.
Oh, Clone Wars.
Clone Wars.
And Rebels.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also Freaked, and also co-composer for Peacemaker along with Clint Mansell.
Oh, wow.
Like Clint Mansell and Kevin Kiner co-scored Peacemaker.
Interesting. Yeah, that Freak score and soundtrack's really solid.
Yeah, Freaked score it's a great score.
Yeah, super good. I need to pick that up at some point.
Also gonna just use this opportunity to endorse everyone to watch Peacemaker, which is like just the great. It's not. It seems like it's a superhero show. It is not a superhero show. It is a cosmic horror comedy where aliens are taking over humans and using them as meat puppets. And the heroes are very smart people and very stupid people, all cooperating for big insanity. It's great. It's really good.
Yeah, it's a blast. And a lot of hair metal.
A lot of hair metal. Like my favorite, I don't like hair metal recreationally. I'm not just like sitting and listening to hair metal, but when it's in the right context, I am right there. And this is the context. Is that
100%. This is a perfect use. Yeah.
So check out Peacemaker. It's getting a season 2. James Gunn is going to write and direct the whole season this time around. It's going to be insane.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, come back next week for us to discuss The Pest, starring John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun. I have seen The Pest since I've lived in LA, but definitely not in the last 5 years. And definitely never thought about it in a social way before. So that'll be interesting because this movie is anti-politically correct, I believe.
Cool.
Oh.
I have seen The Pest never. So
Great.
Oh.
yeah.
I have not seen it since it came out, so I'm very curious
Excellent.
to
This
see
is going to be
how
fun.
or if it holds up at all.
This will be fun. Travis, do you want to give us an outro?
Sure. So until then, Dustin, where can people find more of you?
You can check me out at DustinMeadowsComedy.com, at Dustin Meadows on Twitter and Instagram. I also have another podcast called New Metal Who Dis. We'll have a new episode dropping this week about Alien Ant Farm. Remember them?
Oh.
And
Are
I'll
you
also, yes. And I also just wrote and directed and finished up a horror short that'll be dropping sometime this week on my YouTube channel.
Nice.
So check that out too.
Cool. And Alex, how about you?
The thing I'm most excited about is this thing right here. So just please continue tuning into this Most Dangerous podcast. But also, like I said, check out Reno 911 Defunded on this week, actually. What, Friday, I guess? Or Thursday, maybe? Yeah, I don't know. This week, Reno 911 Defunded, February 25th on Roku, and it's free, and you can just watch it, and you can laugh or be mad that you used your time that way. But either way, watch it so that maybe Roku decides to finance more Reno 911. I don't know.
Then get refunded.
Yeah. let's get them refunded.
You can find me at Travis Fishburne. You can find the show at Who Watches Pod at Twitter. Please subscribe, like, review, interact in any way on all the socials. So until next week, survive and stay alive.
So that's your most dangerous game.